the city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
Well, what do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hi, I'm Bill Grear, the village trustee of Morton Grove. With me is John Hill, the coordinator for EMA, better known as Emergency Management Agency. Before I introduce John to the public here, I just want to say that I'm proud to be the liaison to EMA. The mayor appointed me when I became trustee, and it's been a privilege, to work with you guys.
Well,
so John, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I've got a lot of questions for you, so if you wouldn't mind, we'll just start rolling them off.
Hopefully we've got the answers for you.
I think you will, John. Well, first of all, I would like to know, explain exactly what EMA stands for and what type of work do you do for our village?
Well, EMA, Emergency Management Agency, is our new title. A few years ago there was a change. We used to be known as ESDA, ESDA, Emergency Services Disaster Agency. So a few years ago we realigned ourselves to be more like the state and the federal government programs. And basically what we do for the village is coordinate the emergency responses. We also maintain the village's emergency operating plan, and we provide trained manpower and equipment to help the police, fire, public works, and other departments in case of a disaster that stretches them beyond their normal capabilities. So we're a coordinating agency that kind of works in the background, making sure everybody gets what they need to get their jobs done.
Very good, very good. I'll just go right into this this building that we're in. Most of our programs are done at Village Hall, but we decided to do it here. What do we do here before and after emergencies and all the disasters?
Well, we're right now in what's called the Emergency Operating Center. This is a facility at Fire Station number 4, down in the depths of the basement, secure from all sorts of possible scenarios. We want to try to keep the mayor and his staff and the trustees and the department heads in one safe place during the course of a disaster and emergency where they can work together to strategize and direct the field forces that would be responding to whatever the disaster may be. This facility was last used as the emergency operating center during the floods of September 2008.
Very interesting.
She's trying to line up there. Okay, cool. Cool, you just broke it off.
Unsure if they can get out of the vehicle or not.
Okay, now what about the traffic coming off of Lehigh?
I know, we're gonna keep them from making turns.
Okay, we're gonna send them west on Dempster.
West on Dempster. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, we already got somebody who knocked over. Okay, we're going west?
Yes.
68.
Oh, we put the caution. Hopefully it's gonna stop me.
One of the things that we did at that time was to coordinate our response to the flooding situation and then work with the county and the surrounding towns to coordinate our responses, because you know how traffic was.
Of course.
Can you imagine?
Can't get through.
Couldn't get through. Right. We were coordinating all of our departments, and the mayor and his staff were making decisions, and department heads were carrying out those decisions. So it works very well when we're in a controlled environment.
Very, very interesting. Let me ask you, what mechanisms are in place to get warnings out to our public, and how does important information during and after disaster get disseminated throughout the village?
Well, we have quite a few means of getting information out to the residents of Morton Grove. The newest is our Everbridge 911 reverse system.
Okay.
What we do is put a message out that will keep calling people on their home phones, or if they've subscribed their cell phone or a PDA or an email address, so they can receive emergency information in real time. The Everbridge system will dial one house, every house on a certain block, neighborhoods within the village, or the entire village within a matter of minutes.
Wow.
We used that when we were doing the Dempster Street project. Water department was calling homes, telling them when their water service would be off, and we used the system to notify the residents. And we would do the same thing in case of a disaster.
And in a matter of minutes, huh?
In a matter of minutes.
Wow.
We also have 5 outdoor warning sirens now, so we
Okay,
can notify
right.
people who are outside of their homes.
Right.
And there's other means, the cable channel, we can either do the scroll or live programs. We can interrupt and go live to tell people what to do if their TV's working, if they have power.
Sure.
We also can do the old standby, which would be police, fire, and emergency management people going door to door if we have to disseminate the messages.
Very good. Thank you very much. Let me just roll along if you don't mind. Is there any information you could share on family emergency preparedness, like which the residents do when they're in a severe storm approaching, which immediately afterwards?
Very good, because we are
Good question,
coming up on severe weather season, and that's probably one of
Right.
our busiest times of the year. We generally have a seminar we put on for the public on what to do in case of severe weather, and we have this handy book here we put together that explains exactly what citizens should do to prepare themselves for a disaster. I think the first thing we need to do is make sure people understand the difference between watches and warnings. They hear a lot of that on television.
Sure.
And a watch means that there might be something taking place at some time. Weather looks like it might turn bad. And a warning definitely means it's turned bad and we can have severe weather or tornado heading our way.
A severe weather watch means conditions are right for severe weather to occur somewhere and at some time within the watch area. Watches are issued for entire counties and for longer periods of time.
A severe weather warning means that severe weather is now occurring in the warning area. Warnings are issued for specific areas within a county and for shorter periods of time. If you hear that a weather warning has been issued, seek shelter right away.
What the signs and signals are that we'll be sending out and what you get off of your commercial TV and radio stations.
Well, building on that, how important is it for the residents out there to have their own disaster plan? Can you give a few examples of this so we can plan it for our own homes?
Yes, exactly. Part of our program, we do have a number of planning guides from the Red Cross, from FEMA, from other agencies, which should help people with planning for disasters. And the first thing to do is a risk assessment. You want to see what type of disaster could you possibly be involved with. You know, other than severe weather, there could be, not likely, but earthquake, chemical spill, could be civil unrest. It
You're
could be
scaring me,
any kind of scenario. We cover all hazards. And that's what we want the people to do, is to think about what could possibly happen and then plan appropriately.
Right.
And one of the things that we do recommend is having a family plan, a meeting place outside the home where if something happens, you all get together. Contact person that you can call to let one another know you're okay and where you are in case you get separated.
Sure.
Or kids are at school, mom and dad are at work, something happens, you can't get home. You want to go meet by the aunt and uncle's house perhaps. But you want to have that plan written down and rehearsed and make sure all the family members know about it.
Very good, very good. Well, what about putting together an emergency kit, which is about what we're talking about? I understand that the village can't be everywhere all the time, okay? Most people can understand that, especially when there has been a disaster. So we need to be self-sufficient for a short time. What can you recommend our residences?
Well, one of the things that we've been telling people at our annual severe weather seminar is plan on being on your own for 72 hours. This is a guideline that we receive from the federal government. They want to make sure that everybody has water and food and emergency supplies. So we recommend people get a Rubbermaid tote or a big canvas knapsack and put water and a small first aid kit and maybe some non-perishable food stuffs. And if it's the winter time, change of socks, some extra gloves, a hat, a blanket. to stay warm, and in the summertime, you want to have, a change of clothing. If you have prescription medications, maybe an extra supply of those.
Very good.
And then any other supplies that you would need to get along on your own in case you've lost water and electric, and you couldn't get out to go to the store to replenish items.
So, you know what scares me is it's not a perfect world, is it, John?
No, it isn't, and that's why we're here.
Well, that's good, and it's very, very informative. Now that we have talked a little about emergency management, what about the people that make it work? I understand that this February is the 60th anniversary of the original Civilian Defense Corps. How does this current emergency management agency trace its roots back to this group?
Well,
60 years,
it
huh?
started back in 1951 when you were just a young child, and
wow.
I wasn't even thought of yet.
Oh, boy, he's got me going here.
Well, in 1951, actually was January 23rd, the village decided to create a civil defense corps in response to a government request because of the Korean War. And they were concerned about it escalating to a point, and then we had atomic weapons, and they were afraid that they would be deployed, and they wanted to have some kind of homeland defense system, and they encouraged every community to set up a civil defense group. So back in February, the first meeting took place, and Carl Eckhart was appointed the very first civil defense director.
Wow, sure we know.
And through the years, the membership grew, and in the mid-60s, there were 33 auxiliary policemen and air raid wardens, and 6 fire and rescue men. And these were all volunteers in addition to, at the time, a volunteer fire department and a full-time police department.
In 1951.
This was all the way up into the 60s.
Into the 60s.
And civil defense pretty much stayed that way through the 70s when it was renamed Emergency Services Disaster Agency. And there were a number of directors appointed. It was Chuck Memhart and Jim Quirk, Frank Selzer, and my predecessor, Craig Harris.
Yes, of course. Of course. Very interesting. Moving right along here, John, what about your background? That I'm very impressed with, by the way, but maybe the public should understand a little more about you. And how long have you been associated with this group?
Well, I've been with...
and your capacities, thank you.
Well, I started with ESDA in 1987.
1987, very good.
And I was the assistant under Craig Harris from 1998 until I was appointed coordinator in 2007. My personal background, I'm on the periphery of public safety. I do it only as a volunteer. My real job is industrial engineering. I work for a material handling company that does power plants. So it has really nothing to do with fire or rescue, but it's more drawing on my management background.
So you have a full-time hobby, I take it then?
Yes, yes.
Very good, very good. I hope they understood that volunteerism part. Right?
We'll get into that later.
I hope we do. I hope we do. How many volunteers are there currently, and what is the average age? Be careful now, of some of your people and their backgrounds. Thank you.
Well, we've got 17 right now.
17,
and they range in age from a sprightly 19 to a, let's be politically correct and say, beyond retirement.
Okay.
And they come from various backgrounds. We have everyone from computer programmers to barbers to bartenders.
Very nice.
We have quite a number of young people who are going into public safety, fire service as a future career. So we have EMTs and paramedics who are also volunteers with us.
And let me add that I'm so impressed every time I see them out there. Before I was a trustee, and now especially as a current trustee.
Oh, thank you.
It's an honor. I understand that all of the members are strictly unpaid volunteers, which we kind of touched on a little already. Is that correct? Why do you think people still want to give up their time to serve others in this day and age, which is a unique thing, and it's an honor? But
well, it's really hard to explain why people do what they do. I know my group, they all have their own reasons. The younger guys who are going into fire service, this really gives them a leg up. It allows them to work with the fire department very closely, work with the police department, actually be on the front lines and learning a skill before they actually get jobs of their own.
Yeah.
Other people, they just want to do good things for other people. I think that's where...
That's a beautiful thing in this world nowadays.
It's a good thought, and I think that's the basis of a lot of the volunteers from Morton Grove, is that they want to do something for their neighbors.
That's very good.
And of course, there's always the fact that 80% of the fire service in the United States is volunteer. And I think that just goes back to the old days when people realized things needed to be done and they just stepped right up and did it.
80%?
Yes.
Wow. It's an amazing stat. Going to another question of ours is the volunteers are certainly very busy. We see you at parades, we see you all at the Morton Grove Days Carnival and the Farmers Market now that started this year. What else does this group do? Not that I don't know, but
like
maybe they'll get to know a little more.
We are pretty much involved with anything and everything. You name it, and we can lend a hand if we have to. Our primary duty, being part of the fire department, is to assist the fire department at, of course, fires. So what we would do is, if it's at night, we supply the lighting. We have a fully equipped lighting vehicle that we deploy to fire scenes. We have people that will assist with salvage and overhaul. And after the fire is over, so the guys who've done all the hard work and take a rest will roll hose and put the equipment away. We also fill their SCBA, their air tanks, so they can breathe while they're in the buildings fighting the fire. We'll do traffic control at fire scenes so the police can go about more important things.
Be careful when you say more important.
Well, you think about this day and age, you really want to have the highly skilled and trained people doing what they're best at, and we can actually step in and do the traffic control on a side street rather than tying up an officer who could be catching a speeder or someone who's actually breaking the law.
But we don't want to take light of that responsibility level.
No, and the fact that we receive a lot of training from them, so we could step in and assist them, is valuable. That these other departments will actually give us things to do. I appreciate that question, and I know the group, because they're so busy, we actually don't have a whole lot of pictures of us doing things, but people see us at the concerts in the park doing first aid. They'll see us at the parades directing traffic. Every time it rains and Gulf Road floods, who do you think is out there?
You got it.
Yes, exactly. If we're not cleaning the leaves off the sewer heads to help the water go down, to help out Public Works.
Public Works there, right.
We're directing people around flooded intersections or the viaducts.
Amazing, amazing volunteers.
So anything that we can do to help out on a temporary basis, we will.
Beautiful. A lot of our time is spent preparing for the unthinkable, right?
That's right.
Where does one get this knowledge, or is there some formal training program that we all go through, or you guys go through, rather?
Well, all the EMA volunteers have to go through some basic training. We are all trained in first aid, AED use, defibrillator use in case of somebody has a cardiac problem. And when we happen to be there, we can step in and help out. CPR. We also have training in emergency communications, radiological monitoring. It's still a function we carry over from the old civil defense days. The spotting for severe weather, I think, is our biggest thing come springtime. We have guys who are basic spotters and others who are advanced spotters. And we actually call our information back into the Weather Service so they can use it to determine whether or not those warnings need to be issued.
Tell them it's raining out.
So the training we receive is various and sundry from all types of local groups, the state, federal, and of course in-house. We receive a bulk of our training from the fire department, the police department, and a lot online courses from FEMA, and every once in a while the state may have a course that's interesting that we'll send people to. And because the village is part of NIPSTA up in Glenview,
Yes, I was going to bring that up a little later.
we're actually entitled to use their training facilities. And
a fantastic training facility that is, isn't it?
You should know.
We should know. We fought a fire up there together, didn't we?
We are proof of that.
I have a correction, though. John, you you use the word guys an awful lot in this program, but it's guys and girls that are our
Yes, it
volunteers.
is. Don't want to
Be
sound
careful.
sexist, but
Be careful.
But we do have
Because
a
our
number
girls
of
are very
highly
important to
trained
us here.
female volunteers.
Yes, you do.
Who,
And I think there's a few in the audience
yes,
right
there
now.
are. So if the video's not coming out the way we want it,
I just saved you a little, John.
thank you so much.
You have to put the girls in there. This training is provided by the village, state, and FEMA at no cost. That's my question. What other specialized training do the volunteers receive?
Well, we recently went up to NIPSTA, and because we may be the only ones on the scene until the fire department or police department arrive, we need to have various skills, and one of them is how to extinguish a small incipient stage fire. So we took our fire extinguishers out, built a small bonfire at the same training prop that you used, and we had all of our people come up and attempt to extinguish several different kinds of fires using several different types of extinguishers that we carry on our trucks.
Then that small extinguisher does. So you can imagine how much fun we'll have with this one. So what we'll do now, this is almost empty. We're going to go back and use the dry chem extinguisher to finish this off.
Okay. Can I try again? Because I don't.
Now you get better luck this time.
That's okay. Get in line. Okay. Wait 1 second. Here.
So that's part of the specialized training we have, in addition to, as I mentioned before, some of the training we receive from the fire and the police departments.
Good, good. So you work pretty close and hand in hand with the police and fire departments?
Yes, we do.
So Chief Friel and Chief Erickson operate with you quite a bit then?
Yes, they do.
That's very good, very good. A question I have, which I kind of get lost once in a while, but just let the public know, where is NIPSTA, just for curiosity's sake, you had mentioned that.
It's in Glenview on Patriot Boulevard. It's at the far end of what used to be the old air base, just north of the Glen.
Very good, thank you. Moving right along here, are there other similar programs in neighboring communities, or are we the lucky ones in Morton and Grove?
Well, a lot of communities had ESDA units. They had civil defense, they became ESDA. And then as time and the economy took its toll, a lot of the surrounding communities disbanded their volunteer groups. Skokie had a very active ESDA unit. They've been disbanded. Mount Prospect had a group as well. They were disbanded. Right now, there's Morton Grove, Des Plaines, Main Township, and several of the farther out communities still have an active volunteer group. Palatine has a very large group. A lot of communities replace that with a more loosely organized CERT team where they train people to take care of themselves, and then they call them to act together as a group. It's not formal. It's not how we're organized. We're actually under the fire chief, And as you can tell, we're uniformed.
Yes.
Because we're not just somebody who wants to run out of his house and help somebody because they see a car accident on the corner.
Yeah, right.
We actually have more training than they would have to respond to these kind of situations.
Very good, very, very interesting. Let me tell you that. Just for the viewers' sake, if any of the viewers are interested in joining you, how would they do that and who would they contact?
Well, they can call our office,
Yeah, sure.
847-965-1502, and leave your name and the contact number. We'll call you right back. There's not always someone in our office, but we do return calls promptly. Or you can call the Village Hall, or you can send an email. My email address is jhill@mortongrovil.org. Or if you just call the front desk at the fire station, Pat would be more than glad to take your name and number and get the message to me.
Very good. Because going back to our notes, there are 17 volunteers, and I'm sure you could probably use one or two more every once in a while. And,
Of course.
It never
We
never
hate to
hurts
turn people away.
You got that right. It sounds very interesting, and like I said earlier, I'm thrilled to be the liaison to the EMA, and deal with you, John, and the wonderful people that you have underneath you. It's a phenomenal thing, and I hope all the residents kind of appreciate what these people do for us. It's an invaluable thing that we have in Morton Grove, like John said earlier. We just don't have it in every community, and it's to me it touches my heart when you hear about people volunteering. It's not who's getting paid and who's getting the overtime. These 17 people, John and his wife, Kathy, right?
Yes.
She's is one of the 17. Just an amazing thing, And if I keep going, I might get teary-eyed. Who knows? But I'm serious. John, thanks again for your time and your talents, really.
Well,
and I hope I get to work with you for many years to come.
Well,
my
I
friend.
hope so too, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Village of Morton Grove Emergency Preparedness Guide is available at Village Hall, Fire Station Number 4, the Civic Center, or online at www.mortongrovil.org. Just click on resident information.